Hello and welcome to How to Interview Another Person in the project of My Roots. How to interview. First of all, you need to know your topic. That means that before you interview your subject or your person, you need to find out as much information as possible about that person. You need to find out its background, you need to find out its life events, you need to find out some news events and other information that might be useful for your interview. When you found out all this information, either by Googling it or by asking other people, you need to write down your opinions and feelings about the subject. You need to write down yourself what you think and how you feel about what you just learned about the person and the subject. When you have your own opinion and your own questions and feelings about what you've just learned, then you write down different questions that you will use when you're interviewing your subject. It's important that you put the person that you are interviewing in focus. This is an interview about the person and not about you or about the person's surrounding or about the current event where the person is living or other situation, but actual person. When you have the topic well prepared, you need to avoid obvious questions. For example, if you are interviewing a person who's a female, you should not ask if you're a female or if you're a woman or a man, because it's obvious what that person is. You should also, if a person is very happy about or winning a prize, you should not ask question, are you happy about winning the prize? So try to avoid obvious questions. Or other obvious questions might be, if you know that the person has fled from a country, you should not ask the question if the person was worried or scared about fleeing from the country. That's another obvious question. When you have your topic and your person, you have all the information, and you started to write down all the questions and feelings and opinions that you have about that person, you need to now divide all these questions into different question types. There are different question types that are based upon your opinions and feelings about the information that you received. These are general questions. General questions means that there are questions regarding general situations. Like, for example, if a person fled from a country, you can have a general question about that country's situation or why that person fled from the country. Open-ended question means that you ask a question where the answer can be anything and is very long. For example, if you say that you know that there was a war in this country where from this person fled from, you can say that could you explain how that person experienced the war? That is an open question. That means that you do not know the person's opinion in advance. Closed-end question is that if you can guess what the person is already going to say, or if it's a yes or no question. For example, when you were fleeing from a country whilst there was a war going on, were you scared? The obvious question and a closed-ended question, that would be in closed-ended questions because there would be only a short answer, like yes. These questions that are closed-ended are not recommendable to be used in an interview situation, but only to confirm an open-ended question. If you're uncertain what the long answer from the open-ended question was, you can confirm their answer by asking a follow-up closed-end question. A leading question means that you have already made up what the answer should be, and you are trying to lead the subject into answering the way that you want the person to answer. For example, you could say, "Isn't it true that you were very scared when you left this horrible country with a lot of wars and everything?" Then you already asked the question where you decided or you wished that the person fleeing from the country would answer yes on that question. That is a leading question, where you already trying to lead in the subject into answering the way that you want them to answer. This is also not recommendable to use in an interview situation, since an interviewer, the person that interviews, should be neutral in the situation and not lead the subject into answering the way he or she wants him to. A personal question is also to be avoided at some times. You can ask personal questions if you feel that you know the subject you are interviewing, but not if you don't. Personal question is more into depth about feelings, experiences of a situation that you've been talking about before. For example, why were you afraid of leaving a war country? Did people in your family die? That would be a very personal question, since that would maybe reawake feelings in the subject and make him sad. Therefore, it would be a personal question. It's very important that you understand that it's the person who is in focus. The person that you are interviewing, the subject. Subject and person, same thing here. Therefore, you need to always dress appropriate when you're going for an interview. You cannot turn up in baggy jeans or in ripped t-shirts and think that you will be taken seriously, but you would actually dress in a way that is expected in this situation, not in the way that you feel, because this is not about you, it's about the person you're interviewing. You should make sure that you have no attitude towards this person. You cannot, even if you do not like a person that you are interviewing or do not like the person's opinion, you still should not have an attitude where you reflect of how you feel. It's very important that you stay neutral. You need to stay neutral in all your questions and your opinions. When your subject is talking, because you just asked a question, do not interrupt your subject. Let the person finish. Even if they have long pauses, do not interrupt or try to help the person along the way to answer, or hurry or stress the person you're interviewing. Let it take time and don't interrupt. You need to show empathy. For example, if your subject or person is telling a sad story, you need to try to show with your body language that you are listening and feeling sad as well to hear the story. You should not yawn loudly or look at your watch or pick with your phone or look out through the window or do other things with your body language to show that you are bored or not interested. Doesn't matter how you feel about what the person is telling you, you need to try to show empathy, because this is not about you but the person in focus. Not about you also means that even if a person is telling you how that he or she feels about something, no one is interested what you think about the subject. So you should not talk about what you think about the subject. You should just ask the questions and follow-up questions. That means that if you ask a question about how it was to flee from a country of war, and that person is telling you how it felt and what they were doing, if you feel that the answer is too short, or there are words that are being used that needs to be described, or situation that needs to be described further for the people to understand, you need to ask questions that follows up what the person just said, even if these follow-up questions are not written down in your original question paper. Follow-up question gives a more wider and depth to the answer that you just before asked. When you end the interview, you need to make sure that the person you interviewed feels that he or she is content with the answers, and that you feel that you've got all the answers as well. Make sure that you have a lot of material to use when you are working. It's better to have a lot and then to cut down when you're writing the result than to have very little and need to do more research or go back to ask more questions. Do it properly from start. Now, this is the end of how to interview a person. Make sure to smile and good luck.